I'm Rick Fulby. I'm along with Rudabeh Shabazi. You're looking at live pictures now of what the White House is calling a listening session with President Trump and survivors of the Parkland school shooting and other school shootings. Let's listen in.
If you focus too much on diversity, you create division. If you focus too much on unity, you'll create compromise. But if you focus on relatedness and how we can relate with one another, then you can celebrate the diversity and you can see the unity take place. I'm all for diversity, I'm all for unity, but the focus really needs to be on how can we connect. And that's something that we and our organizations have learned. One thing we have learned is how to connect students with each other, with themselves, with their teachers, and with their parents. And I would love to share more as we have a chance to do so. Thank you again for having us today.
I appreciate that. This is an incredible group of people, and we really do appreciate it. Some of the folks in the back and some of my friends sitting right back here, I'd like to have you say a few words. We can learn a lot from you. We want to learn everything we can learn, and we're going to go, starting about 2 minutes after this meeting, we're going to work. Because this is a long-term situation that we have to solve. We'll solve it together. And you've gone through extraordinary pain, and we don't want others to go through the kind of pain that you've gone through. It wouldn't be right. So would you like to say something, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Curtis Kelly. I represent Thurgood Marshall Academy here in the District of Columbia. Thank you, Vice President and Madam Secretary, for having myself and Gregory Baldwin, who represent Thurgood Marshall. My tragedy started September the 20th of last year, where I have two twin sons that attend Thurgood Marshall, and they are elite athletes, Junior Olympics. One of my sons was a youth council member for the District of Columbia in Ward 5, and one day this is after school. Now I agree we need to protect our kids in schools, but we need to protect them on their safe passageways home as well, and their extracurricular activities, and their parks and recreations and everything that they try to go for their peace in. So my son Zaire Kelly went to college bound right after school to announce that he was declaring for his college to run track and to further his education and become mayor of District of Columbia or something like that. On his route home, he got a text from my son Zion Kelly, who was going to make it, but when he found out there was press, he decided not to. Because locally we were burnt by the press. Zion is texting Zaire, watch out, there's someone in our passageway coming home. And in a split second, Zaire was just walking home, maybe from this distance to where the curtains are. He was that close to home when a thug came out to try to rob Zion. And he tried to rob Zaire. He tried to rob Zion 20 minutes earlier. Came back because he was upset. He didn't get them students. Those fast track kids, I'm going to come back and get them. He went, caught my son, got an altercation over a cell phone, shot my son in the head, and now he's not here with us. That day I could have lost two sons. But the tragedy that my family have to live with after losing Zaire is I have another son that attends Thurgood Marshall. We've been taking him to all types of family counseling and therapy, and the school has been affected, the community has been affected, and the local politicians said, so what we want to do is stand up for our students in the community. Give us some solutions as to what we can do. So myself, along with Helping Hands Inc. DC, came together and got with our attorneys and everyone else and said, okay, we're going to do some research and find out what legislation can be found that can better serve to protect our students in their safety zones, in their school zones. And it's been a fight because everybody show up for photo ops. All the politicians show up to say, we're going to get it done. We're going to protect our kids. But just a couple weeks later, school shooting, just like we all hearing about all these experiences. At Ballou Senior High School, kid gets shot in school. Dunbar, kid gets shot in school. In our schools, on their safe passageway home, their parks and recreations, extracurricular, our students have to be protected. Our students have to be protected. One local legislator asked me, how do you define students? How would a criminal define students? You would define them after you commit a crime against them. The students are crying. They're calling for a national standout day, April the 20th, in celebration of Columbine, because the same incidences keep happening, not just in our schools, in our communities as well. To upstanding citizens, to those that's doing the right thing. And we as parents, yes, we try to fight to pass legislation just like you, locally. But nationally, this campaign has grown. And it's affecting all of us, all our kids. There's gun violence. Gun violence. So I thank you. That's my story. And we're going to keep fighting, and we're going to keep trying to pass legislation, and we're going to keep fighting for our students at Thurgood Marshall and here in the District of Columbia and across America as well.
Thank you very much. It's incredible. Very sad. Thank you very much. Does anybody have an idea for a solution to the school shooting and the school shootings that we've gone through over the years, and we've seen too much of it, and we're going to stop it? And there are a lot of different ideas. I could name 10 of them right now. Does anybody have an idea as to how to stop it? What is your recommendation to stop it? Yes.
I don't know if I'm going to say something you haven't already heard. I could tell you that in addition to all of the sorrow that we're feeling in our community right now, there's also a lot of anger. Anger that the police can visit a person dozens of times and not take action. Anger that the FBI could get at least 2 credible tips and not take action. And one possible solution, which we discussed with Secretary DeVos over lunch, was if a tragedy strikes, can we wait for the first responders to get to the campus 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 minutes later? And one possible solution, which may not be very popular, would be to have people in the school, teachers, administrators, who have volunteered to have a firearm safely locked in the classroom, who are given training throughout the year. There are plenty of teachers that are already licensed to carry firearms. Have them raise their hands to volunteer for the training, and when something like this starts, the first responders are already on campus. And if it's not the teachers, you could have people that work on the campus. A custodian could be an undercover policeman. Someone who works in the library or the lunchroom could be an undercover policeman. He serves lunch every day, but he also has a firearm at the ready. A guidance counselor. If you can't stop it from happening, and with hundreds of millions of guns out there, I don't know if it'll ever be fully stopped, but the challenge becomes, once it starts, to end it as quickly as possible. And just, unfortunately, you can't wait 5 or 6 or 7 minutes. And what my daughter said earlier, that there are 32 states that have laws that require the schools to prepare for this. And yet more than half the county, and Broward County is one of them, and our school was prepared. And thank God, it was only 17 lives. But when more than half of the counties won't spend the money out of their budget for the training, even though the law says they should, it'll be that many more the next time. So between having the schools train for lockdowns and possibly having armed personnel, staff that are willing to do it, Yeah, anonymously. I don't want the kids to know who have the firearms. I don't want the shooters to know who have the firearms. I don't want people walking around with firearms on their side. But when that alert goes off and they put the kids in the closets and they put the kids under the desks, then I want the teacher to open that safe, pull out that firearm, and be ready to do what needs to be done while you're waiting for the helicopters and the SWAT teams to come.
I'll disagree with that, but I also think that you need more deputies. You have a campus of Stolen Douglas with, I think, what, 3,200 with one deputy? One. And if that deputy leaves for a training, we need another deputy there. Yeah. And the other thing is communication. Your schools have to communicate with the police has to communicate with child services. Child services, maybe has to communicate with FBI prison. And for someone to buy a gun at 18 to do, I understand, like even a background in 15 minutes, he should be able to communicate with all of those other people that something is wrong and this child doesn't belong buying a gun like this.
Mr. President.
You're right about that. Yes,
Mr. Vice President, Madam Secretary, thank you for having us. I think what you're hearing today is there's no lack of solutions. I think what we've had to date is a lack of leadership. And I have confidence that you will bring out that leadership that we need to finally take the action that needs to be taken, because there's not one solution. There's many solutions, and you're hearing some of those here today to resolve this, to address this. Our schools are soft targets, so we need to harden the targets by making them increase our deterrence capability so that potential murderer knows that that's not going to happen, that there's going to be people there ready to respond, that the minute something happens, our technology will pick up that an incident has occurred and it will be responded to immediately. And also the children and the teachers know what to do in that instance. They're communicated with effectively. We need to identify where there's mental health issues among the student population. The kids at the school knew this person. They knew he was an issue. The FBI knew, and I think we need to close some of these loopholes in the background check system where we're not integrating effectively the mental health knowledge that exists at the state level, at the local level, into the federal background check system. So fix the NICS system, and that's an easy one. So there's a lot of immediate steps we can take right now. There's some longer-term solutions, but I think we need to get started right away, and thank you for your help on this.
Well, thank you, too. And I will say, again, background checks are going to be very strong. We need that. And then after we do that, when we see there's trouble, mental hospitals, mental institutions, we had a lot of them, and a lot of them have closed. They've closed. Some people thought it was a stigma. Some people thought, frankly, it was the legislators thought it was too expensive. Today, if you catch somebody, they don't know what to do with him. He hasn't committed the crime, but he may very well. And there's no mental institution. There's no place to bring him. And we have that a lot. Even if they caught this person, I'm being nice when I use the word person, they probably wouldn't have known what to do. They're not going to put him in jail, and yet, so there's no that middle ground of having that institution where you had trained people that could handle it and do something about it and find out how sick he really is, because he is a sick guy. And he should have been nabbed a number of times, frankly. Your concept and your idea about it's called concealed carry. And it only works where you have people very adept at using firearms, of which you have many. And it would be teachers and coaches. If the coach had a firearm in his locker when he ran at this guy, that coach was very brave. Saved a lot of lives, I suspect. But if he had a firearm, he wouldn't have had a run. He would have shot, and that would have been the end of it. And this would only be, obviously, for people that are very adept at handling a gun. And it would be, it's called concealed carry, where a teacher would have a concealed gun on them. They'd go for special training, and they would be there, and you would no longer have a gun-free zone. Gun-free zone to a maniac because they're all cowards. A gun-free zone is let's go in and let's attack, because bullets aren't coming back at us. And if you do this, and a lot of people are talking about it, it's certainly a point that we'll discuss, but concealed carry for teachers and for people of talent, of that type of talent. So let's say you had 20% of your teaching force, because that's pretty much the number. And you said it, an attack has lasted, on average, about 3 minutes. It takes 5 to 8 minutes for responders, for the police to come in. So the attack is over. If you had a teacher who was adept at firearms, they could very well end the attack very quickly. And the good thing about a suggestion like that, and we're going to be looking at it very strongly, and I think a lot of people are going to be opposed to it. I think a lot of people are going to like it. But the good thing is that you'll have a lot of people with that. You know, you can't have 100 security guards in Stoneman Douglas. That's a big school. It's a massive school with a lot of acreage to cover, a lot of floor area. And so that would be certainly a situation that is being discussed a lot by a lot of people. You'd have a lot of people that'd be armed, that'd be ready. They're professionals. They may be Marines that left the Marines, left the Army, left the Air Force, and they're very adept at doing that. You'd have a lot of them, and they'd be spread evenly throughout the school. So the other thing, I really believe that if these cowards knew that the school was, you know, well guarded from the standpoint of having pretty much professionals with great training, I think they wouldn't go into the school to start off with. I think it could very well solve your problem. So we'll be doing the background checks. We'll be doing a lot of different things, but we'll certainly be looking at ideas like that. You know, a lot of people don't understand that airline pilots now, a lot of them carry guns. And I have to say that things have changed a lot. People aren't attacking the way they would routinely attack, and maybe you have the same situation in schools. So does anybody like that idea here? Does anybody like it? Right? Yes? For Meadow, your beautiful Meadow. We talked about that. And do people feel strongly against it? Anybody? Anybody? Strongly against it? Right. I mean, look, we can understand both sides of it. And certainly it's controversial, but we'll study that along with many other ideas. Anybody else something to say? Yes, go ahead.
I've been in thousands of schools across America, and I've noticed in Israel they have one hard entry point, and it's very well guarded. I'm not asking for us to change. I'm not saying that we should turn our schools into prisons, but I've been in so many schools where I'm speaking in an auditorium, and I'll go outside to call my wife or to just get a breath of fresh air. And it is so easy for me to get back into that school. I'm an unknown adult to many of those students. I can tap on a window and they'll open the door for me. Or I can catch someone coming out the side door and easily get in. So one of the things that I have thought a lot about in seeing this around the country is we have really soft entry points.
Right, that's true. That's true. And we can do something about that. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm Brandon Thompson. First, my heart goes out to everyone who's experiencing this tragedy right now. I'm currently Dean of Students at Friendship Tech Prep, which is in the heart of Southeast D.C., which is in Ward 8, which is one of the most impoverished wards in D.C. However, at our school, just a solution, we actually have checkpoints. When a student walks in the door, we actually have metal detectors. And I oftentimes see that in urban education. And we actually have an X-ray machine that students put their bags through. And right after this incident happened, a parent who didn't so much agree with it at first sent me an email saying, thank you, because now I see exactly what's happening. And so we oftentimes use that TSA model. When the student comes in, we have somebody at the door to greet them, to do a check-in just to see how they feel. And we have certain point people where I know this person's not feeling so well, so they won't get past point one. They go through the metal detector, their bag go through the machine. And so at the end of the day, just talking to my students riding over today, they all say, well, I feel safe. And you come outside and you say, talk about mental hospitals, our school is right across the street from a shut down mental hospital. We have, you know, if you were to come over to the streets, you'd be like, oh my God, but once you get inside the building, we have that family feel. We have that those check-in points. We have it where every visitor that comes through our building has to go through these checkpoints to ensure that our students get home safe, to ensure that our staff members get home safe. And these are just minor solutions. Like, I will say, I'm against having a teacher with a gun in a building. Teachers are emotional. People are emotional. So I think that is a huge factor. However, but having students, and you may have to go to staff members, going through these checkpoints to ensure that, one, their mental is on point, and two, that we're talking about, they don't have any physical metal on them, and or even in our building, our students don't even carry cell phones because we consider that's a threat. It's taken away from them learning. So they actually turn in their cell phones. And so those things of ensuring our kids are there at the moment, to live the moment, to enjoy school, they get that joy factor, they get that family feeling. They're able now to connect with one another and able to communicate and not have to worry about, you know, looking over their shoulder when they walk, you know, out and into the building, because they know every person that comes through the building has been through a metal check. Their bags have been checked. And so that's just a solution. Once again, my heart goes out to everyone who's been through this tragedy.
Thank you. Very well said. Very well said.
Mr. President, thank you for being open to hearing all forms of solutions. I truly appreciate that. One point on the mental health issue, and I think it's important to note that someone with a mental illness is highly unlikely to ever commit an act of violence. It's a very, very small percentage. What we're really dealing here is more with a lack of mental wellness. This is around anger and fear. And that's not something that you can diagnose and put in mental health hospitals. This is more about funding for mental health services to help these individuals that are at risk, especially when we think about suicide. Teen suicide. Suicide is the #2 killer of our children, as I understand right now, and a lot of these suicides are performed with firearms, which makes them, you know, unsavable. So the idea of mental health and being able to identify who's at risk, who is considering these issues, who's going into crisis, that is incredibly important. I appreciate the point on arming teachers. It's not personally something that I support. Rather than arm them with a firearm, I would rather arm them with the knowledge of how to prevent these acts from happening in the first place. How do you identify the kids in your class that are most at risk? And then, most importantly, within a school, how do we have a safety assessment program so that schools know how to deal with all these threats, have established protocols to deal with them, and get underneath the surface of what's going on in that child's life, find out why they're on this pathway behavior, and intervene. This is about prevention. There are some fabulous solutions being talked about today which still go to imminent danger. Let's talk about prevention. There is so much that we can do to help people before it reaches that point. And I urge you, please stay focused on that as well. It is the gun, it's the person behind the gun, and it's about helping people before they ever reach that point.
Yes, go ahead.
So, thank you. I fully respect all of our amendments, including the second. But in Maryland, they have proven that the Second Amendment does not protect these types of weapons. They have banned over 45 different kinds of assault weapons, including the AR. They have banned, they have limited magazine sizes. They have proven that it's not like we have to lose our Second Amendment. You know, the Second Amendment, I believe, was for defense. And I fully respect that, like I said. But these are not weapons of defense. These are weapons of war. And I still can't fathom that I myself am able to purchase one. Anyone?
Thank you.
I would like to talk, Mr. President. I couldn't agree. I'm not here to debate, but I lost my sister. And like Mr. President said, if you could find 20% of maybe retired law enforcement officers or teachers who could go through discrete training to carry a firearm on this waist, it could have been a very different situation. Like he said, law enforcement takes them 7 minutes, 8 minutes to get there. If a teacher or a security guard has a concealed license and a firearm on their waist, they're able to easily stop the situation. Or the bad guy, I'll put it that way, would not even go near the school knowing that someone can fight back against them. Also, I believe that it is insanity that they would even open the gates up 20 minutes before school ends. They're supposed to protect us and the children. So in the future, we need more security, we need more firearms on campus, we need better background checks, and we need to study more on mental health. And I want to thank everyone for their condolences, and that's my only argument. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Yes, good.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, Madam Secretary, for having us here. My deepest condolences to those who have lost family and friends. My name is Curtis Lawrence. I'm principal at Friendship Collegiate Academy. And like Mr. Brandon had said, we have security, and we also have MPD on staff that we hired to make sure that things aren't coming into our school, and also this immediately in the mornings and during dismissal immediately around the school to protect our kids as they leave. But last month we did suffer a loss. One of our 9th graders was gunned down walking distance from the school. And so when we talk about safe passage, I think in looking at what's happening with gun violence with our scholars and with our students, I'm saying taking a double approach, right? You have to protect kids that are in schools. All right, so as a president, you have different laws in different states. And so definitely where they don't have the necessary security as we may have as getting in, then we have to think of what are those solutions for the kids in Florida that are going to those schools with that to make sure that they're safe in school. And then places like here in D.C., what are those solutions to make sure kids are able to get home and to school safely? So I think it's a two-pronged approach, and I know you're in a specific position to, as you meet with the governors and they have their different laws and coming from these different perspectives, to make them own that two-pronged approach to protect them in school and protect them as well out of school going back and forth.
Thank you. Mr. President, thank you so much, and thank you, Vice President and Madam Secretary, for convening this and for allowing us all the opportunity to speak about this very serious problem. And my heart absolutely breaks for the families of Parkland. I have a sense of what you are going through now. I've been going through it for 5 years. This is my son, Daniel. He was 7 years old when he was shot to death in his first grade classroom in Sandy Hook Elementary School, just a little over 5 years ago. My wife, Jackie, could not be here today because she's a school teacher, and she takes that job seriously and sent me as the ambassador. Jackie is a career educator, and she will tell you she has spent over a decade in the Bronx. And she will tell you that school teachers have more than enough responsibilities right now than to have the awesome responsibility of lethal force to take a life. Thank you. Nobody wants to see a shootout in a school, and a deranged sociopath on his way to commit an act of murder in a school with the outcome, knowing the outcome is going to be suicide, is not going to care if there's somebody there with a gun. That's their plan anyway. I am going to build on what my friend and colleague, Nicole Hockley, said. We tried this legislative approach. I've been in this building before, many times, wringing our hands, pleading with legislators, what can we do? Until we finally said, we have to go home and do this ourselves. And we built something. Sandy Hook Promise has built something that works. We train students and we train teachers.
All right, emotional moments at the White House as President Trump listens to students and parents from Marjory Stoneman Douglas High and other schools that were forever changed by gun violence. Students urging the president to find a solution to gun violence in schools. Parents of victims telling the president the time has come to fix the problem. The CBS 4 News at 5:30 continues right after this.